Hello and welcome. This is George Shears. I want to thank you much for taking some of your precious time to watch this video, which I hope, is going to be of some interest to you. What I'm going to present here is an introduction to integral spiritual awakening, which is something that I am very excited about, and I think anybody who is really interested in this topic will find it equally exciting. Now, to set the stage here, I want to just very quickly summarize what I see as some of our major global crises. I think we're in really deep weeds. We have massive environmental destruction, massive loss of biodiversity, with massive species extinction, global climate change, weapons of mass destruction, and nuclear proliferation with missing nuclear material that could easily fall into the hands of terrorists. We have global terrorism, rampant religious and political divisiveness, economic and monetary instability all over the globe, an increasing gap between the rich and the poor, not only in the United States but worldwide. And then I wanted to focus on what I regard as some of the absolutely key root causes of all of these crises, and they all boil down to what I think Walt Kelly really put his finger on in Pogo many years ago when he coined the aphorism, "We have met the enemy and it is us." More specifically, I think it is the human ego. Now, the human ego is inherently stuck in an illusion of separateness, which is sometimes called primordial ignorance, of separateness from the rest of the universe, including all of nature on this planet. As a result of that, over at least the last 4,000 years, humans have become progressively alienated from nature. And then along with that, we have an evolutionary legacy of our ancestral brain structure, which causes us to be driven markedly by greed, hatred, and delusion, the famous three poisons in the Buddhist tradition. And accordingly, we've collectively caused just horrendous environmental destruction and massive extinction of species, as well as endless wars on this planet. And now, through modern technology and weapons of mass destruction, we are at high risk, literally, of destroying civilization. And so we urgently need to find some solutions. And next, I want to lay the foundation for what I'm going to be focusing on here, namely by addressing what is non-duality, because everything I'm going to say is within the context of non-duality. Non-duality holds that the entire universe is a single integrated whole, manifesting as endless, ever-changing forms, and ultimately, all of these transient forms are inseparably one with the whole. And so the universe is the true, real, or absolute self of all seemingly separate beings. And that sets the stage for a non-dualistic evolutionary perspective. And briefly, this assumes that the universe emerged out of emptiness into form with the Big Bang 13.7 billion years ago. And since then has been progressively evolving into ever-increasing complexity. And through the relatively recent evolution of human consciousness, the evolutionary process on this planet has accelerated markedly and, most important of all, has become self-aware. And now, by realizing our oneness with the universe and its constant evolution, we humans are potentially in the position to become conscious co-creators and to actually play a major part in the ongoing evolution of the universe. However, this entails evolving beyond ego. And the challenge of doing that is enormous, because the ego's illusion of being a fixed entity separate from everything else in the universe is extremely deep-seated and pervasive. And out of this erroneous perception, it is strongly fear-based and is desperately, constantly trying to defend itself from annihilation. Completely illusory annihilation, because in fact it doesn't really exist in absolute reality. And it also strongly attaches itself to all that it perceives as I, me, and mine, and causes incredible suffering in trying to maintain fixity in the midst of constant transiency, constant change. And one of the best analogies that I have found to represent the ego's predicament is it's much like a bubble in the ocean that is desperately trying to preserve its illusory separateness from the ocean. Now, for the last about 2,500 years, there have been some very dedicated spiritual technologies designed to help the ego evolve beyond itself. And these were all basically developed in cultures, traditional cultures that were much, much simpler than the current postmodern world. And typically, this evolution from ego was implemented in monastic communities. Now, implementing these methods successfully with so-called householders in Western cultures is far, far more challenging. And in the postmodern world, what is called integral spiritual awakening offers a much more promising pathway to evolving beyond ego. And what this approach entails is combining traditional methods with, most importantly, a passionate, dedicated investment in some form of purely altruistic, compassionate endeavor. And that brings me up to telling you about somebody who is right at the forefront of evolutionary spirituality practice. His name is Craig Hamilton. And just briefly, he's a contemporary mystic. He's a pioneer in evolutionary spirituality, has spent many decades in intensive spiritual practice. I personally regard him as very highly developed spiritually. For 8 years, he was a senior editor of What is Enlightenment. He's a founding member of Ken Wilber's Integral Institute, and Ken Wilber is often called the Einstein of consciousness. He's written some 25 books, all of which are still in print. They've been translated into 30 different languages, and so he's a colleague of Craig's. And Craig has been a participant in the synthesis dialogues under the guidance of the Dalai Lama. He's the founder of an organization called Integral Awakening, and the creator of the Great Integral Awakening. His special focus is articulating vital relationships between individual transformation and collective evolution. Now, he has focused on what he calls the key to evolving beyond ego. And just briefly, he recognizes that in the modern age, this requires a motivating force that's much greater than that of the ego. And it entails aligning oneself with an intrinsic part of the self that genuinely cares for the greater good, the altruistic part of ourselves. And it provides a larger evolutionary context for one's life, namely to help evolve life, consciousness, humanity on this planet. And it requires people who have the necessary luxury and freedom to engage in consciously evolving human nature from the current horror and pain into what he calls something beautiful and extraordinary. And you can click on a link in the blog post where you found this video to listen to an excellent recorded audio by Craig Hamilton with the same title as the above. Now, I'm going to show you a couple of his websites here in just a bit, but first of all I want to tell you that one of them is the Great Integral Awakening, and you can sign up free there and download 14 MP3s, audios that are absolutely excellent. Every one of them a nugget of gold. This was originally offered as a live teleseminar beginning in April 2010, and so this is something that I strongly recommend that you, if you're interested in this subject at all, that you take advantage of this. So I'd like to go to this website, which is Pioneering a New Spiritual Path, and here are the people that were involved in it. Ken Wilber, Diane Hamilton, all of these are very prominent people in integral spirituality. Don Beck, Mark Gaffney, Michael Murphy, who's co-founder of Esalen Institute, Carter Phipps, Claire Zammit, who is Craig Hamilton's wife. They were recently married. And then Andrew Cohen, who has been Craig's main spiritual teacher for the past 13, 14 years. Sally Kempton, Genpo Roshi, who is a very well-known and highly recognized Zen master for the last 30, 35 years. Marilyn Schlitz, Steve McIntosh, Terry Patton, and Craig Hamilton. So all you have to do to get these, all of these audios completely free is just sign up with your name and email address. And I strongly, strongly recommend them. I've listened to most of these audios, and they're all just absolutely excellent. And then here's a second website that Craig has, Integral Enlightenment, Awakening to an Evolutionary Relationship to Life. And he is planning to offer what he calls the Essential Course for Evolutionaries. In fact, he may already have offered this, and this page gives you a lot of information about it. And if you get on the mailing list, you will find out when this is being offered. All right, so that is pretty much covers what I wanted to present here, and I thank you very much for participating and watching this video. I hope you'll find it useful, and if you are in position, I earnestly invite you to really journey down this path of evolutionary spirituality and become a co-creator in the ongoing evolution of this planet. And I dearly hope that we will indeed be able to transform this crisis into a miraculous transformation of consciousness and turn things around on this planet. Thank you much. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.